Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer, shall we? Today, we're unpacking Competency 001H for the Visual Arts Teaching Exam. Now, if you're gearing up for the TKX's 905, you already know that the elements and principles of art are your bread and butter. But this specific descriptor, it asks us to take that knowledge a massive step further. We aren't just talking about knowing what a line or a color is. It's really about understanding how those exact same tools are wielded across entirely different times, places, and peoples. So we're going to explore this descriptor, translate all that academic jargon into plain English, and figure out exactly how this theory transforms into real, practical classroom application. There is no single correct way to create art. So this crucial theme immediately stands out from the material. It sounds super simple, right? But internalizing this is profoundly important for any future educator. Look, when we teach visual arts, it's not a math equation. There's no single right answer at the end of the page. It's a universal language, sure, but it has millions of different dialects. Acknowledging that there are multiple, equally valid artistic perspectives out there is literally step one in meeting the expectations of this exam, and honestly, in building an inclusive art curriculum. Here's our roadmap for today. We've got 4 main sections. First, decoding descriptor H. 2, the vocabulary of culture. 3, art in the classroom. And 4, key exam takeaways. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, Decoding Descriptor H, the core philosophy. Getting into the actual language of the standard, it says the teacher, quote, understands how different heritages use art elements and principles to create art and convey meaning in different ways. What's truly fascinating here is the emphasis. The elements of art are universal, but how they're applied, that is deeply tied to cultural heritage. Think about it like this. Artists all around the globe have access to the exact same basic ingredients, right? Line, shape, color, texture, space, form, value, the whole shebang. But just like chefs around the world use the exact same ingredients to create vastly different cuisines based on their regional traditions, artists use the elements of art differently based on their specific historical context and cultural heritage. Texas 905 expects teachers to recognize cultural diversity and help students appreciate multiple artistic perspectives. The material makes it crystal clear that your goal isn't just teaching brushstrokes or shading. You need to actively foster an appreciation for diverse artistic viewpoints. Why does this actually matter? Well, because art is how people communicate their deepest beliefs, their values, their traditions. If we only teach art through a single cultural lens, we're basically silencing the rest of the world's voices. The curriculum really pushes students to see the world through multiple perspectives, recognizing that a pattern in one culture might just be purely decorative, while in another, it might be telling a sacred ancestral story. Moving right along to Section 2, the vocabulary of culture, mastering the academic language. Okay, we have to master this vocabulary for the exam because, well, you can't analyze what you can't articulate. First up, the text clearly distinguishes between heritage and culture. Heritage is historical. It's the traditions, customs, and practices passed from generation to generation. Think of it like a relay baton being handed down. Culture, on the flip side, encompasses the shared values, beliefs, and everyday practices of a group of people, living and interacting together right now. Understanding this little nuance is incredibly helpful, mainly because artwork is often born from a present culture, but it's heavily informed by a long-standing heritage. Next up is symbol. The definition here is an object, image, color, or design that represents a larger idea or meaning. This is a vital term because symbols are the primary vehicle cultures use to communicate. And this is where cultural differences really shine. Take the color red, for example. In a lot of Western cultures, it screams danger or stop. But if you look at many Eastern cultures, red is an ancient symbol of profound luck, joy, and prosperity. Recognizing that symbols shift meaning across cultural lines is absolutely vital to interpreting art correctly. And all of that brilliantly illustrates why context is literally everything. Cultural context is defined as the social, historical, and cultural circumstances that influence the creation of artwork. You simply cannot separate the art from the era, the society, or the political climate where it was born. I mean, a piece of art created during a time of war is going to use elements and principles very differently than a piece created during a time of peaceful harvest. The cultural context acts as the lens, the only lens really, through which we can view the artwork to truly understand its visual communication. It's also super crucial to see the link between these last two terms. Artistic tradition, which is the established practices or styles of a culture, basically the way it's been done historically, and then visual communication, which is the use of images and elements to actively communicate ideas. An artist uses their specific tradition as a framework to actually communicate visually. Having these definitions locked down is going to make navigating those tricky multiple choice scenarios so much easier. All right, Section 3, Art in the Classroom, Theory into Practice. Let's see what this looks like in action. So, how do we take all these high-level concepts and make them accessible to young learners? Well, imagine introducing your students to these three distinct and rich cultural mediums. You bring in examples of Native American pottery, vibrant African textiles like traditional kente cloth, which, fun fact, is actually woven in these amazing narrow strips before being sewn together, and intricate Japanese woodblock prints. You aren't just showing these to say, hey, look at this pretty art. These specific examples are used to demonstrate descriptor H in real time, because each of these mediums comes from a deeply distinct heritage with its very own artistic traditions and cultural contexts. The real light bulb moment happens when you have students compare these diverse cultural mediums against the core artistic elements: line, pattern, color, and symbolism. You put the Native American pottery, the African textile, and the Japanese woodblock print side by side. Then, you ask the students to look at line. How does the woodblock print use line compare to the pottery? You ask them to look at pattern and color. How do the bold geometric patterns in the African textile convey a different energy than the patterns in the other two? You ask them to identify symbolism. Through this comparative exercise, the realization hits them. They see that while every single artist used line, pattern, color, and symbolism, the meaning they generated was entirely unique to their specific cultural heritage. Finally, Section 4, Key Exam Takeaways. Texas 905 Essentials. Let's distill all of this down to the precise takeaways you need for the exam. The material highlights 4 definitive concepts to really rely on. Number 1, art reflects cultural traditions and beliefs. It does not exist in a vacuum. Number 2, different cultures use elements uniquely. While the basic elements are universal, their application is totally unique to the culture. Number 3, students must appreciate diverse perspectives. Teaching requires moving way beyond the idea of a single correct way to make art. And number 4, cultural understanding is vital in visual arts education. It's a non-negotiable part of a complete curriculum. Filtering scenario questions on the test through these 4 core principles is a fantastic strategy. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this question to reflect on. How will you bring multiple artistic perspectives into your classroom? Grasping this material for the TEKS 905 is obviously the immediate goal. But the larger vision here is understanding the vast, beautiful, and diverse ways humanity has chosen to express itself. Keep that curiosity going as you study, and really try to enjoy the process of discovering these global connections.